We are less than 50 days away from the start of college basketball season, and there's plenty of optimism surrounding the Kentucky Wildcats. But let's not forget that at last year's tournament, the Wildcats fell to Kansas State in the second round before losing players like Wallace to the draft, as well as Oscar Tshiebwe, who went undrafted but did sign with the Pacers. But despite the losses, the Wildcats have a bright future because Kentucky's 2023 recruiting class is ranked #1 in the nation. No surprise, as it's their 7th #1 class since Coach Calipari took over. And speaking of Coach Cal, the Wildcats have been one of the best in college basketball under him. Kentucky has amassed 387 wins since his arrival, which is easily the most in the SEC during that span. Well, looky here, Coach Cal in the building here at ESPN. And I just mentioned that #1 recruiting class, Coach, which means obviously there's a lot of guys that need to get up to speed. So how have you seen your team start to come together so far?
Well, we took a trip to Toronto, played in the GLOBL JAM against 23-year-old teams from Germany, Africa, and Canada, and did good. Averaged 27 assists a game. My best teams have been young players, talented, but veterans who are also talented, and you mix them together. So we have that this year. We get good young players, good young guards. We got 2 7-footers. They'll tell you they're 7'2". So we got some size. I'm liking what I'm seeing, and more importantly, they're really getting along together. Yeah. So you got a young group, but they're really excited, and it should be fun.
Okay, so you've done this for a long time now.
Don't say that. I've done it for a while.
He's done it for a short time. Okay, fine. In terms of it all coming together in March for you, because it's been a minute since you guys have reached the Final Four, what's it going to take for the squad to get there?
Our league is way better, so we're going to be prepared to go into March. You got to be healthy. Again, the talent where you have a couple guys that can just take over a game, where you have great rim protection. Those have been my Final Four teams. Mm-hmm. And so I'm looking at this group, and our whole thing is let's just get better every day. We showed this summer what we can do, and now it's let's get stronger, let's get more consistent, shooting the ball, skill-wise. Young players are not sturdy enough to be real consistent. So that's why it's really important the summer and when they return to campus in the fall. So this is a good group that way. I mean, they love being in the gym. I go in my office and I'll look out and there are 4 guys in there playing. They play a lot of pickup, which is really important too.
Good. They just love the game. Let's go back to that Global Jam that you did in Toronto in July. As you mentioned, the summer is important, obviously, for these young guys. And I know you mentioned the assists, but you guys also went undefeated in that tournament, and you won every game by about 15 points or more. So how beneficial was doing something like that in Toronto for these young guys?
Well, the thing that was important, we played, that was 23 and under. That's what the tournament was. So you had a lot of professional players playing, and they got to see physically, I got to get stronger. Yeah. You know, I've got to be able to play through bumps. I've got to be able to play at the rim and get hit and still make shots. But the other point that we saw is that we create great opportunities. When you have that, you can create space versus plays. You can do more random basketball because they understand and they see each other. Court awareness and how we played there, shot the ball well. Antonio Reeves really shot the ball well, and you have to have that.
So speaking of Toronto and good experiences, if you will, you're in Toronto, you go to Drake's house. Then I see on social media Lil Wayne is sending you things for your office. Do you identify with the rap scene? What is the deal here?
You know, I know all the songs. When I'm in the shower, I'm singing those songs. I've known Drake a long, long time. Before he became Drake. And that's the greatest thing I can tell you about him. He's really not changed. He is exactly how he was when I first met him. Lil Wayne was doing a concert in town and said, I want to go meet Coach up there. So he came to my office. And I'll tell you, I loved hearing his story. Tell me, you started at 14. You're now 34. How did you get your break? And he had with him his group. They were all from New Orleans, which meant he hadn't changed. Yeah. His people, that's who they are. And that always impresses me. I want to know, give me your background, tell me how it happened, what, so, and Drake, I said, can we stop by the house? He said, what? You can
No big
go
deal.
to the gym, you can go
roll up in the crib.
And he's one of those guys that he laid it out from the chefs that were there, the DJ that was there. We brought mostly our people, but we brought some others with us.
Awesome.
Great experience. In his gym and his area where he has his memorabilia, oh my. I believe kids should be able to transfer once without penalty. You make a mistake or you're not where you want to be, I get it. But we had over 800 players not receive scholarships. So 1,800 put their name in the draft or in the portal.
Yeah.
800 didn't get scholarships. You have 700 freshmen put their name in. 48% of those did not get scholarships. I think most college coaches that I know are holding back scholarships for young people because we may get a transfer. We better have one. Mid-season, we better have one. That means another 300 to 500 young people not getting Division I scholarships. We can do better. I'm saying let's go back to 5 years to play 4. You can transfer without penalty once. After that, you got to play that last year. If you get hurt, you want a red shirt, you can do all that. You play that
Everyone gets an extra
year.
year of eligibility, essentially.
Well, only you play 5 years only one way. You go to a school and you stay all 4 at that school. That school can give you a 5th year. Reward the kids that are staying. But we got 26 and 27-year-olds playing against 18-year-olds right now. And it's filtered into the name, image, and likeness deal. Huh. So that's why I'm saying 5 to play 4. I think it solves 50, 60% of the issues we're having right now.
And then we'll have older players playing in college basketball, but you brought up NIL, so let's go there next. Look, here's what I know about Lexington. Kentucky basketball is basically a religion. So I can imagine that your players, it doesn't matter where they are on the team or the depth chart, can capitalize on NIL. Would that be a fair assessment? Like what?
Well, let me say this. We're a poor state, so you don't have like businesses in Lexington, Kentucky. But for our kids coming in, most of them have deals before they ever show up to campus because they're that good. If you're a first-round draft pick, you're having opportunities with trading cards, shoe companies, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Again, I don't care. I was one of the first to say these kids have a right to their autograph, their likeness. This was 10 years ago. So I'm good with it. But we've gotten out of whack with this. And that's why I'm saying we've got to, let's figure out how we take care of these kids, do it the right way. You can't do it in a way that takes away Olympic sports. And why do I say that? I like watching the Olympics. Mm-hmm. I like the gold medals. Mm-hmm. Well, all those athletes are trained on our campuses. And there you go and say, well, everything's going to this, this, and this. Those sports are going to end up going away. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that's a good thing.
Right. And, it's ever changing, obviously, and hopefully maybe it can be corralled a little bit so everyone can make sense of it. Lastly here, we've talked so much about conference realignment and how it pertains to college football. But obviously this also impacts college basketball and a myriad of other sports. So in terms of the SEC specifically, Oklahoma, Texas coming over, how does conference realignment affect you?
Well, I'm happy I'm in the SEC, and I'm happy I'm coaching at Kentucky in the SEC. Some of this travel and things that are going to go on for some programs, it's going to be a rough go. And I think, again, Greg Sankey has moved a little slower, and everybody said, well, he made the first move. But, again, keeping rivalries, doing those kind of things, there's a lot to be figured out. Brett Yormark is shaking it up in the Big 12, but there's still a lot to be figured out. How do we do this? How do we make sure I always say if you're making decisions for the kids, they're always the right decisions. Yeah. And I've said that for years for the NCAA. Just do the right thing by them and you'll make a good decision. In this case, let's just make sure that how we're doing this is not, the burden doesn't fall on these young people.
Yeah, that makes sense. Before I let you go, Is it Calipari or Calipari? Do you care? Is there a preference?
It does. It's like it's easy. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Okay, good. I feel better then. Coach Calipari in Kentucky opened
like
the
that
season.
better.
You like that? On November 6th at home, and then they will play on November 14th in Chicago against Kansas. Can't wait for the season. Coach, thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.